Okay, it's time for some honesty. I'm sure all of us have at some stage been on a night out and not expecting it to be quite as wild as it was. You know, we had one drink too many and after which it all got a little bit vague. Well, the man I'm meeting today, his one wild night turned into 14 years. Yeah, and I thought I was hardcore. So hello again and welcome to the guest list. Coming to you this week from a rather swanky hotel in London's swinging West End, and with a guest whose reputation suggests today things might get seriously rock and roll. He's in here. Episode 3, Season 3 of the guest list brings us an actor whose fast living antics off-screen are that of legend. Hollywood's very own prodigal son, he burnt almost every bridge in the movie kingdom, but he wrestled his way back into our hearts once more. Yeah. And today, he's joining me on the guest list. It's great to have you on the show, Mickey.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here at the guest list. And what are you up to at the moment?
Are we on now?
Yeah, this is me starting. How's that?
What am I up to? Hold on. I came over here for the GQ thing.
Hey, congratulations, by the way.
Yes, I would have given it to like a soldier or a cop or a fireman or a doctor. I don't, I don't really feel worthy of the title,
Which is the International Man of the Year.
Yeah, I think somebody that has like I was going to say a real profession, but that'll people off in the movie business. I would say, a harder job than me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you have that weird relationship with acting sometimes, don't you? I mean...
that's something I may have said in a certain way 10 years ago, and it would have been taken the wrong way. But, I respect what I do. But there's other professions right now. We don't live in very easy times, and there's a lot of other people that I think, I would vote for other than myself. I appreciate it, and I respect it. And it was nice I always love coming here, but I would have voted for someone else.
So you enjoy your time in the UK, though?
Yeah, I do. I come like 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. I've been in this hotel for 21 years in the same room.
It's a nice hotel.
Yeah.
Thank you, because we sometimes shoot this show at the arse end of the world.
Oh,
so
okay,
thank you for bringing us here.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little now about some of the movies you've picked for us, and at the top of your list is Meet the Parents.
They teach you that in the CIA? I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
I am finished with the checking of the bags. Conversation.
Oh. Sorry.
Everybody in acting school when we were coming up wanted to be, just Robert De Niro, as the man, and...
When you look at him doing comedy,
yeah.
Do you think he puts the same concentration? And a lot of people, sort of were confused when De Niro started doing comedy, like in Meet the Parents.
Jinxie cat, where are you? I love you.
Do you think, he can do it well, no doubt, but do you kind of go, I respect you for doing that, for taking a role like that?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons that people take roles at a certain point in their life that maybe doesn't have to do with anything at all. Mm-hmm. That has to do with acting.
Kevin was Pam's fiancé.
Oh!
Oh! Oh!
Psst!
Oh!
Jinxie, no! Oh, my God.
During Angel Heart, there was something as an actor he had very much of that I had very little of, and that was concentration. He's got impeccable concentration, and working with him, it was like he's just so zoned in. Mm-hmm. Me, I'd be off, calling so-and-so or talking, and then come back to it.
So when you talk about your preparation, your concentration now...
Well, also, when I left acting for 6 years and went back to the boxing, that also helped my concentration because, like when the bell rings, you've got to be right there. Mm-hmm. And so, aside from lessons I learned watching somebody like De Niro and then going back to sports and being able to really focus and concentrate, which was a weakness of mine, it isn't any longer.
So, you attribute that to a certain degree to sort of coming back from your fighting. It was in the early 90s when you were doing a lot of boxing.
Yeah, because, yes, I did notice it with Robert De Niro when I was working with him, how focused he was and concentrated. And I don't really think I was starting to not like acting anymore. And I resented it, acting, and it was probably for all the wrong reasons, nothing to do with acting, had to do because I had some broken pieces I didn't know how to fix until I went and got information about that. But going back to the boxing, I had a really great trainer named Freddie Roach, who's trained like 16 world champions, and he was a real disciplinarian. And I remember one time I was getting ready for a fight in Kansas City, and I just wasn't training right, and he just got up and said, "I'm going back to Las Vegas." He left, and he says, "I'll come back in a month if you want to. I don't train people to lose, you know." And
he actually left. It wasn't
he
just
left.
a threat.
No, he left and went back to Las Vegas for a month, and then
Wow.
I put it into another gear, and I realized, I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to embarrass Freddie, and so I took it up a notch.
You've had just one of the most colourful careers of, I think, anyone I've ever sat down to talk to, because you've worked with some of the greatest names in cinema, legends in our own time. One I particularly love is Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis has had one of those colorful careers, you could call it. I mean, up, down, all around. Got into trying to get his own studio going for a period of time. And I think in the last several years, he's been concentrating more on making wine than making movies. And
Yeah.
But when he comes back and he puts his head to it, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it usually has a lot of integrity. And that's what I like about Francis. He crosses the line, and he's very innovative and takes chances. And it's not always about making, Batman 5,
And, I mean, Rumblefish, that was
Yeah.
1983. I mean, that was described by some people as his kind of suicide note to Hollywood because it was so outside the system.
It seems to me like I can remember seeing colors. It was a long time ago.
Yeah?
I stopped being a kid when I was 5.
Yeah. I wonder when I'm gonna stop being a little kid.
Not ever.
What are your memories of making that film?
It was interesting. Francis was sort of like he was like the first intellectual that I worked with, and he would speak to me in these metaphoric ways. And he'd say things and talk about that I never heard of, and I'd have to go home and look it up. And then I
on set with a thesaurus.
Yeah, right.
One more
Actually, yes, and it got me my head into going back and kind of reading and studying more, because I was more into sports, going to school than studying. And I think after working with Francis, I started to read a hell of a lot more and sort of self-educate myself, so I knew I could be prepared for someone like him.
And when you've worked with him and he's directed the film, and when you see the film, I mean, do you sort of go, I appreciate what a great piece of work that is?
Back then, I used to watch my work. I haven't watched my work in the last 15 years, so...
Is that just...
That's because I'm a perfectionist, and if I see something that I don't like, I'll get all wigged out about it, and so it's better for me not to watch it.
Now, a movie that I know you must like, East of Eden.
I know why you didn't love me. I gotta know who I am. I gotta know what I'm like.
When I grew up, I had no idea who the really great actors were. Monty Clift and Brando and James Dean. I knew the action. I knew Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson. I didn't know who the James Dean was. And then, I was in acting school, like, oh, that guy who died real young. And then I seen him in 3 movies, and he was great in all 3 movies. And
this was his first East of Eden.
Yeah,
his first major role.
For a kid who was 24 years old or whatever he was, I mean, it was, magical, really.
Man has a choice. You used to say that was where you differ from an animal. You see, I remember, man has a choice, and the choice is what makes him a man. See, I do remember.
Look, I can't find any coffee.
Get out!
But you can't do that without the material, and you can't do that without a director like Kazan. It's like De Niro was great in a lot of movies. He had Scorsese with him. You're as good as the material of the director that you have with you. You can't just do it.
At the time, some people were a little bit derogatory towards it. They sort of said he was trying to be Brando, but over time that's completely been reversed, and people now look at it and go, well, that was a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, people misinterpret it, because usually people will call themselves a method actor, and they don't know what a method actor is. Either you get it and you have the life that you can tap into it and really do it, or you just say you're that and you don't know what you're talking about. And it gave it, I guess, a bad name for some time, or people will make some choices and go, oh, I'm into character, I can't talk to you, and they'll call that method acting. That's all bull, you know.
I do remember a quote from Alan Parker around Angel Heart, and he just said, you know, the scary thing about working with Mickey is you don't know what he's going to do on set. He's dangerous. I know it was probably not who you wanted to be at the time, but to me, as a reader of cinema literature, I go, man, that sounds rock and roll.
Yeah, but that was also pretty much the time where I had it with the acting, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I'd lost respect for the acting. It was probably I lost respect for myself, because I think a lot of stuff in my personal life was manifesting and out of control.
Well, that's it for part 1 of the guest list, but join me in part 2, and I certainly won't be pulling any filmic punches with Mickey Rourke. See you in a second.